Hi, my name is Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Multifamily Rockstars. Now, this is where we interview people that are crushing it in this business. And this is a show where we show you guys the inside scoop into how multifamily investors are creating massive success in their businesses. And as always, I've got my co-host, the director of my massive action team for our Warrior Group, Mark Nagy, on the call. Mark, what's up, brother?
Hey, Rod, doing well. Just excited for the new year, new goals here, so we can just keep on crushing them into 2021.
Now you're up with your family right now, right?
Yeah, visiting family. It's as safe as we possibly can be. That'll be another thing to look forward to in 2021. But yeah, I'm sure this will be coming out around Christmas and the holidays and whatnot. So it's been great.
Yeah, awesome. So let me introduce our guest this week. It's a warrior. He's a warrior of ours, and his name's Noel Walton, and he's been in the military for 15 years. He's the president of Eagles Capital, and is a GP in what they call J-Corps, which I love the name, Joint Chiefs of Real Estate Partners. So I know he's aligned with other people in the military, which is really cool. So we're going to dig into that. But he's currently got he's got duplex and some single family. He's done a 16 unit as a JV. He's under contract on 172 unit right now, and he's got limited partnership interest in another deal. Anyway, welcome to the show, Noel. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rod, for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you take a minute? And by the way, thank you for your service, brother. It's because of people like you. We live in the greatest country on earth, and none of us take it lightly. And it's something that I am really adamant or really passionate about, and that is how blessed we are to have the military. So thank you. So take a minute and talk about your progression as it relates to the real estate industry.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, I joined the military. Been actually since '99. I joined, and from a mix of different active, guard, all of that. But yeah, 15, 16 years now of active service. Starting out as a young airman in the Air Force. Actually, I was enlisted first, and I had some interest. Just funny thing working like midnight shifts, and I would have a TV on, and there was these late night Carlton Sheets commercials.
Oh yeah. Wow. Is he still around? Holy cow.
I think I heard he just passed recently,
wow.
That's where I kind of started like, this is really interesting. So I saved up my $200 or $300, most of my paycheck, and bought the book and cassette tape series that he had, and started digging into that. And great info, like really intrigued me that, hey, I can get into this and make money on the side. But, at that point, I'd come from a lot of limiting beliefs as a child, and growing up, it was a lot like, oh, this is intimidating. I don't know where to start with this. It felt like, how am I able to do this at 19, 20 years old? And eventually it was just, I think I let the fears get to me and just kind of passed it by for some time. Over the next several years, I actually ended up going to college later, doing ROTC to commission into the Army. And I actually, a good friend of mine that was in ROTC with me, he and his dad were big into fix and flips. This was right in the 08 timeframe, 08, 09. So they were banking on these all cash deals. Yeah, they were finding distressed deals. I went to work for them for $10 an hour, and
wow.
Ripping carpets out of moldy houses, obviously very bad shaped houses. People were foreclosed and just destroyed them. And we'd go in and fix them up, and he'd just start renting them out for $800 a month. He'd pay $20,000 in cash. And
right.
I started to get an interest there. I was like, this is, I like what he's doing here. There's something to this. And that kind of turned the light bulb on, again. And of course, being a college student, I had really no money at that time. But it definitely was in the back of my mind, and I started reading up a lot more. As I commissioned, I got to my first duty station, and which was in Hawaii, and terrible place.
Oh, that's horrible, man. That's horrific. I don't know how you suffered through that, poor bastard.
It was rough. But, at that time, I used a VA loan and bought a house there. It was actually a short sale. And that was actually my first Well, let's say first, I did buy a townhouse, which I still rent out now, but I bought it at the wrong price, and it's, I learned a lot from that. But moving into Hawaii, I saw the price tag on these houses, and that was a big mental roadblock. Like, wow, this is $500,000 for a single family home. It's just crazy, But, as I did some more digging, I was like, you know what? Going to do this because they're looking at the history of appreciation in that area, and just we bit the bullet, went for it. So paid off well. 3 years we owned it, came out with a big stack of capital. Got stationed in Alabama next, and we had some good seed capital, which we started really getting our feet wet in, some fix and flips and some wholesales, and still renting out a couple of those deals there. Making some good cash flow off those. And really along the way, with all the bigger pockets and rich dad, poor dad, and all this, as time went on, the knowledge grew, the confidence grew. Realized, this is something I really want to pursue a lot more of. Then that got me to 2019, leaving Alabama, and realized really in 2019 that single families are a lot of work and they are high risk.
Well, you got that memo way before I did, brother. It took me 2,000 houses to get that memo. So you're a lot smarter than I am. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. And that's really where I started looking into where do I start with this multifamily thing. And it got to be a little, the more I read about it, like, oh, I don't understand this whole cap rate and commercial aspect of things. And it seemed like a big chunk of information to digest, at first. And really, the more I studied and figured out, okay, what do I need to do to learn this? I came across, obviously, your boot camps, Rod, and signed up in November of 19 for your January boot camp in 2020
in LA.
In LA.
Oh, so you went to the LA boot camp? Okay,
yeah, that was my first one, and
no kidding. Wow.
Yeah, I talking about it with my wife, and like, hey, this is. I think this is the right way to go. So, it has been the best decision in my investing career so far.
Sure. That's you mean the Warrior program? Well, thank
Correct,
you, brother.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's funny. I just had lunch with some Warriors. I was so honored by this. Literally, one of them drove 4.5 hours one way from Jacksonville to Sarasota to have lunch with me. I'm like, dude, this is an overrated experience. I want to tell you. So of course I bought lunch, and the other two drove an hour and a half each way from Clearwater. I mean, I was just so honored, but, I was just talking about that LA event because that was the first event. I mean, we've had great networking at events, but that event was insane. I'd go out in the hallway and there were literally hundreds of people in groups of 3 or 4 talking shop. I mean, it was like there were more out there than were in there suffering through me. They were out there actually making it happen
all day long.
Oh, yeah, I know.
All
I know.
Day long.
It was crazy. So, and we were just literally talking about that 30 minutes ago. But so, that ties into the first question I want to ask you, buddy, because you have created this team. I know you've got Warriors in it, and you've got this 172 unit deal under contract. How freaking exciting is that? That's in your backyard too. So that's a great segue to talk about team, because I want to, you've built this incredible team. You've got some Warriors on it. You've got that 172 unit deal under contract, which is freaking exciting. And I know that's in your backyard. So we're going to dig into that in a minute, but let's talk about team building first. Cause really impressed. I love the name, by the way, J-Corps. I mean, that's got that whole military feel to it. So please talk about how you put that together.
Like I said, coming from that single family background, my wife and I were just used to, we worked with a real estate agent who, she understood investments. So like she would help us out and she gave us tips, and she was kind of a mentor to us, but it was that whole idea of, you're the lone wolf, you get your own deal and you move on to the next one. And that mindset was a little hard to break at first, and it was talked about at the boot camp and throughout the program, in the modules, you in your podcast, always saying this is a team sport. And wrapping my mind around that it took some time, but as I started getting through modules and developing the deal flow and underwriting deals and all of these steps to get started, I would do a lot of networking, but it was, still kind of fuzzy. Like how do I piece this all together with other people? And, but it's funny how it came together. It's, I networked with a fellow military member, Air Force captain that's local here at Fort Hood. And we met up for a coffee one day, just start talking and realized, hey, we got the same goals here. And, we both have that experience as military officers. So we think a lot alike, the way we operate and, assess risk and things like that. We're very much on the same page. So I said, hey, let's give this a shot. Let's, we don't have to commit to anything now, but let's run through, send some offers out together, underwrite deals and see how we do. And it's been a great partnership. And then we brought in a couple other warriors along the way that we, one actually being from the Texas area and another one up in New York that, we're all actually both of those are retired and former military as well. So we brought them in and we've been rocking and rolling. And it's we started identifying like, hey, where are each of our strengths, and we start plugging things in, and I've tried to take that.
So I want you to expand on that because that's such a critical piece. That's where I wanted to go with this. Okay. Yeah,
absolutely. As far as strengths go, we realized, okay, my buddy Miles, the Air Force captain, he's spot on with his underwriting engineering degree. He loves his numbers. He's great with them. And there's a couple of us that are pretty good with underwriting, but hey, you're the lead, so you take absolute point on that. A couple of us are better at the investor relations side, the reaching out, getting on those calls with people, and which is really one of my main strengths. I love to talk to people and develop those relationships, help educate people, and really get that light bulb on. To me, I love that. But a couple of other guys they've been working behind the scenes, being more at a distance. We've been holding our Zoom meetings a couple times a week, and it's been great. To take advantage of the technology to connect us, and they bring their own skills to the table as well. They've traveled out here for our due diligence, and it's been good.
Nice. I saw some posts in the Warrior Facebook group. I think when you guys were doing your due diligence, I think maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought you had done a post with the picture. But anyway, yeah. And the reason I wanted him to expand on that, guys, is because, so maybe you're not great at analysis, or maybe you're more introverted and you really don't love to build new relationships. It's not your comfort zone. That's how these things come together. And when you're each of you are playing in your strengths, success is inevitable because you're just going to be like a train on a track. So yeah, that's awesome. So that's on the team building side. Go ahead, Mark, you go ahead and interject.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about just kind of the timing on those as well, because obviously you joined the group in January. You just closed on that 16 unit. Now you're under contract with a bigger 172 unit. So those are recent deals. I mean, a lot of people are always asking me, potential students that we're going to work with, hey, what are you guys doing right now? Are you buying assets? Are you waiting and holding because of COVID and seeing what happens? Obviously, you're still buying, you're still moving business. I know, Rod, you still are as well. But Noel, for your strategy, what do you think is giving you that confidence lately to just keep on going with the business and keep on buying?
For us, it's really paying attention a lot to the market, what economists are saying, what our mentors in this business are saying, what they're doing, and the people, obviously, if you're paying attention to the heavy hitters who are doing multiple syndications every year, and they're still running these deals, there's something to that, and taking that advice and what they bring, whether it be through articles, podcasts, and really just educating ourselves on that gave us a lot of peace moving forward on, we're confident we're doing the right thing, and it doesn't go, we don't just jump into anything blindly. Obviously, one of the biggest things for us is ensuring that we are implementing very conservative underwriting into our deals, and really getting to know the market and what's how that market's affected. What are the demographics? What are the industries in that market? How are they affected by COVID? There's some areas just 2 hours up the road heavily affected by the oil industry, things like that we don't want to necessarily get into right now. Right. Could be a little risky. So and also some of the areas like around Fort Hood, it's generally the consensus is don't go around those one horse towns, so to speak. But knowing the market there for us is that we understand Fort Hood, and we understand that there's less risk to Fort Hood than most other military installations. It is one of the largest in the country, things like that. So we have that more insider information that, we feel is an acceptable risk for us, things like that. So, but yeah, with the COVID, really for us, it was a little bit slow starting out. March, we took things real careful, real slow. And obviously we weren't seeing a lot as far as what people were asking was just too high to meet our underwriting criteria. And we saw that through most of the summer. However, we just kept at it, kept talking to brokers, kept building the relationships. And this, really in the fall is where we started seeing a few more deals coming down that, hey, these prices are starting to get into that window, that target, what we need for investor returns, as well as the conservative underwriting.
Yeah, let me hammer home a couple of things you just said for those of you listening. The conservative underwriting is one of the key pieces. Like we've got an asset under contract right now in Dallas that I think we're at 65% loan to value. We can be 25% vacant day one and still break even. Things like that. And so, and big operating reserves just in case funds. So those are some of the things that we do. And I know, as one of our warriors, you do as well. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention about that, and I just had a complete brain fart where I was going to go with that. Anyway, I lost it. It's never pretty when you lose your mind.
Well, that's right. I wanted to hammer home one thing there as well, which was, just that this game is a marathon, not a sprint. That's another common question that I get on the phone all the time. Hey, Mark, how quickly do people get deals done that join your program? And I always tell them it's not about that, right? You got to be thinking about this in the right way. And look at you. A year later, which some people might think is a long time to get a deal, which obviously you had that 16 unit, but almost a year later, you're now under contract for 172 units. And you got to ask people, are you going to be, sad about those results and it took you a year, but you got 172 units? I don't think so. And it's because you had that mindset you just mentioned, right? You just kept on plugging away, kept on going, doing what you what you knew was right.
And avoided mistakes. Okay.
Yes.
There was the pricing was pretty stupid there for a while. I remembered what I was going to ask, what I wanted to hammer home. I remember what I wanted to hammer home. And that is, you were talking about the one horse towns. And yes, if you've got inside information on Fort Hood, then fine. But when I say don't do a one horse town, it includes military bases. And that's what he's talking about there. The other thing that I wanted to hammer home was the fact that he dug into employment, not just employment industry diversity, but actually looking at the types of employment to see what employment might be COVID resistant or recession resistant, which is really important as well. And when you do that, like I remember an asset we bought not long ago, I literally looked at where every single person there worked just to see if they would be impacted. And so, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. So let me ask you this. You talked earlier about having limiting beliefs. Can you expand on that just a little bit? What those limiting beliefs might have been and how you were able to push through the fear, and to take action, because that's just such a critical piece for pretty much anybody that hasn't started yet.
Yeah, for sure. It really, growing up, and I think a lot of people grow up in this mindset that, to buy big things, you need to be super rich. If you come from a middle class type family or lower income, that you kind of get that idea that like I can't do any better than my parents did and things like that. A lot of it is knowledge. Not having the knowledge is something that you fear because you don't understand it. And for us, obviously, to get past the fear, it was the education was the biggest piece of it, but we couldn't just educate constantly because you don't get anywhere. If you're not taking action, that's the huge thing. And honestly, it's so true that to get past fear, you have to take action. You just have to do something. And as scary as it may be, you just got to get out there and do it. And that's where we were with, our first flip. It was like, wow, this is scary. And now it's like, okay, I'll do 100 of those now. No big deal. Yeah. And but you look back on it, and you're like, wow, okay, I've come a long ways. You really look back at the progress and celebrate those milestones. But it gets you to be able to take bigger jumps of
Sure.
leap of faith, so to speak. And
you went from houses to a duplex to a 16 to a 172. Okay. Well, can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating, and I see it time and time again with my Warriors, is you get that 172 closed, and it's going to be like a year from now, we'll have you back on the show. You'll be at 1,000. Okay. I know this because I've seen it happen so many freaking times. Like, boom,
that's the goal.
That's all there was. Yeah. So I have no doubt. And you talked about financial limits, and it's very common for people to have these, people make a human being makes in income what they must make. And so, we place these limits, these mental limits on ourselves. And so it's really important that, T. Harv Eker used to have this, I don't know if he still does these weekend boot camps around money. And really it's about your mindset around money and how we all have these limiting, we limit ourselves basically. And, we put ourselves in this box, and my recommendation is to pretend there isn't a box and move through that. But, anyway, and the other thing you said is you just had to take action. Action mitigates fear. Bottom line, anytime I have stress, which is the achiever's word for fear, anytime I have fear, stress, I go and I exercise, or I do something immediately to work on that issue. Even if I know I'm not going to accomplish anything, I'm working on it, and it mitigates the fear. And it's the same thing in this business, guys. So, that's awesome.
I'd love to jump in on there as well, that you kind of mentioned about the mindset and the way you think about money. A mentor that I always learned from, Ed Milet, financial guy, awesome dude. He always talks about how your mind is like a thermostat. And if you have a 75-degree mindset, your mind is always going to either turn on the air conditioning or the heater to get to where you want to go. If you're not making that enough money to get to that 75 degrees, you'll work a little harder. If for whatever reason you come across more money, you'll probably end up backing off because of your mindset to get down to that 75 degrees. But if you set your mind at 100 degrees, you're going to do whatever it takes to heat yourself up to that 100-degree income, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
point.
Yeah. It's like the quote, shoot for the stars. Even if you hit the moon, you're still doing quite well. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let me ask you another question. What's driving this for you, Noel? I mean, you've got a pretty great income with the military. You're going to be able to retire in another 3 or 4 years if you want to, and have an incredible pension as well. What's your why? What's driving all this, brother?
For me, it's, I grew up in, my dad has always been self-employed, and he's been a great hard worker, taught me so much in the ways of, just work ethic and things like that. And I learned so much from him there, helping him out. But I also know that, he hasn't got to the point where he knows he's going to be able to retire necessarily, or, he's had to work very hard for a paycheck. And I saw that, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be limited by that, because I also want to be able to help people. I want to be in a position where I can offer, help different causes, or help people that need help. And set up my 2 daughters, 4 and 1.5-year-old. I want to set them up for success and teach them that there's no boundaries. You can do whatever you want, and it's just all in your mind. So that's been huge for me. And be able to give back to other veterans is another huge goal of mine as well.
Oh, I love it, dude. I seriously, my buddy Eric, who you know well, and Warrior Eric and I did a special thing on Veterans Day for veteran suicide, which is a horrific statistic, and then those little micro homes that Eric is all behind on building these for homeless vets. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Go ahead, Mark.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, what I want to ask you here, Noel, obviously you've gone through a lot this year since you just got started earlier this year, in multifamily at least. What have you learned about your business this year that's going to help you improve it going into next year, 2021?
Wow. Learned a lot this year. It's been busy. Really, we went through some stumbling blocks along the way, but learned a lot about, different sellers can just be painful to deal with. And
you know what? That's my question. I was going to ask you about any things that you struggled with. So I'd like you to drill down on it a little bit before we talk about, actually it'll answer both questions. Okay. Things you struggled with, what you learned from it that'll help you next year. So it'll do both. So drill down on those a little bit for us.
Okay. So actually one of the first properties we actually had an accepted LOI on back in the summer, and the 18 unit we were getting super excited about. We're like, all right, we got an LOI accepted. Let's get this over to our attorney. And it was, I think, about 4 days, something like that, since the LOI was accepted. And all of a sudden the seller said, no, they took too long. I went with another offer. And,
wow.
Yeah, you'd say I was just a little ticked, just a bit.
Yeah.
So at first, I'm thinking, did we do something wrong? Did we take too long? And they're talking to more people like, these sellers were just in a hurry. And, it's not the best way to treat a potential buyer, but you can't change it. So, hey, we move on to the next. And
seminar.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
So we're like, hey, let's think of, how are we going to do this faster in the future, just to help mitigate that. Make sure we've got, our contracts templates already ready to go, all this type of things. So the next time around, we can roll into this much faster. We got into a 51 unit LOI accepted back in June, July timeframe. We were super excited about that one. And this one around Khleif, Texas, got into it. And after our due diligence, we realized they're advertising it as a 52 unit, but one of those units is the leasing office and another one is the maintenance man's little storage area. So, this changed our underwriting pretty significantly. 2 units that are off the table, plus, more, AC units that are really old. They're going to have to be replaced within the next year or two, majority of them actually. Exterior, some rusted stairways, things like that we just realized, like, hey, we got to retrade this. We have no choice. And
retrade means to renegotiate, get a different price, just so you guys know, if you don't know what that means, retrade. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we brought that back to them. They did not want to budge on their price to meet us, and we realized we got to stick to our numbers. As much as we wanted to get our first deal, it just wasn't worth the risk to go in too high on that. So we had to walk away from it. And, those were a kick to the guts, we're just getting going, and bam, 2 in a row like that to fell through. But, and I have the saying, sometimes the best deal is the one you don't do, because when you make mistakes, there's more zeros in this business. And so, those are learning experiences, but it makes it sweeter when you get one and you learned every step of the way. You learned on each one of those deals, no question. You learned. So, okay.
Well, and it makes it a little easier when you're around other people who know, right? On that first deal where you're saying, did we do something wrong? Right. You were questioning yourself, what happened, and other people were, whether it was a coach or Rod or the network that are able to kind of settle you down so you don't make that mistake again. That's huge, right? So you don't, do the same thing twice.
That's a good point. What do you feel like has been the most valuable part of the Warrior program for you on this journey of yours this last year, Noel?
For me, it's the networking has been absolutely huge. It's really a combination: the networking, the mentorship, coaching, having that experienced mind to bounce ideas off of, ask questions, having even the Warrior group just to drop questions in and get suggestions and advice on different topics has been phenomenal, and it really helps to solidify. I think this is the right way to do this, but you'll get
feedback. Some certainty. You get some certainty. Yeah. Sometimes you're just scared. You don't know if it's right, but when you hear, that's how we did it, or okay. By the way, guys, if you're interested in our Warrior Mentorship Program and you want to apply, just text the word CRUSH to 41411 and we'll set up a call with you, and you can see if we're a fit. And of course, we'll see if you're a fit. And I can tell you this, even if it's not a fit, you'll leave that call better than when you started. So again, text CRUSH to 41411 if you'd like to chat about it. Talk about I always love to ask this question. If you knew now, or with what you know now, if you went back, let's say 10 years, because you're not that old. So say you went back 10 years, what might you do differently, if anything? Maybe nothing, but as it relates to real estate, though, specifically.
For me, obviously, and I think this is kind of the common answer I've heard across the board, is just I would have taken action much sooner. I absolutely would have.
Would you have gone bigger faster too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would have found a mentor earlier that I know could help talk me through the process more, or help educate me so that those things that did seem insurmountable weren't so bad anymore. And that's really what the main thing I would have changed for sure.
Well, the reason I asked the question is I feel like people need to hear it over and over and over again. It's like, get freaking started, for God's sakes. Okay. And that's why I ask it. Cause I need to hear it about 10 times. Mark, were you going to say something?
Yeah. One real quick question I want to ask on that was what do you think kept you from going bigger sooner?
Good question.
I mean, like I said, it was really those limiting beliefs right off the bat, that just like, oh man, I don't know about this. It's I had to really get myself out there a lot more and educated. I think it really was just the education piece is the more you know, the less you fear things, for sure. Yeah,
sure. No. And I will tell you, the more you know, the more it builds your confidence, which will equate to your ability to influence people. In fact, that's my driving force. Driving force. So I called it that for so long. I just called it, it's my Own Your Power clip for this week, is about influence and the power of influence. So it's kind of top of mind. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you being on the show today, and it's great to see you. And I hope you and yours have a wonderful holiday season, my friend. And I really appreciate you coming on. Mark, it's good to see you as well, buddy.
Yeah, great for you guys as well. Good meeting you, Noel, and good luck with that 172.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see that close, buddy. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411.